Well, I don't know. You have to sneak in. Yeah. Like the old days, mystery. Thanks for the treat. That's who?
It is. No, I'm curious now, but yeah, I'm curious. Yeah. You can call whatever you want when I get there. I don't play that game. Put the billboard on the table. The same thing with I remember when they were doing funky things and stuff and you I mean, there's no one with the 83 with the baseball, 83, change of it. I like that one.
Can you guys hear me over there? Yeah. So? Move because of the camera, but I guess we can get to change it. Welcome back to an in-person meeting. Okay, woo, getting there, slowly but surely. Birthdays for March. Michael Stoner, he's our newest aide. You've probably seen him sitting here. He's not here today though. Patty Phillips and Michael Barron. Accidents. So we had the one up on Kirk Road. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. But basically our bus was slowing down to make a right-hand turn, and it looks like two vehicles were racing, and one swung out into the right lane behind our bus, and I think they thought there was going to be another lane to go around on the right, because it's on video how it swings out to the right, to the shoulder of the road, and then swings back, because there's not another lane, and just slams into the back of our bus. Yeah, so.
Who was the driver?
That was Jim Ziamba.
Okay.
So, his thought process was to keep going and just make the turn to get the kids off of Kirk Road, which I completely agree with. But he drugged that car with him. That's how hard the car hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
No injuries though.
I've seen the guy.
The guy did. He got out of the car on his own. How, I don't know, but yeah, that was one of them. And then we had one in Mill Creek. We know those roads, they get tight in different areas of Geneva, depending how well it's plowed or not plowed. And if we don't swing out far enough, you know, if you're not watching in the mirrors on the right-hand side, you're gonna clip a car. So I would say, again, when in doubt, don't. We're literally, less than 5 minutes away from Mill Creek. And I don't care if you have to sit on the east side and wait for us. Just contact us. We are more than happy to go out there and help you out. If you're ever not sure, just call us. We'll come over there. What's it on Granbury this year? Rudy. And he called in, right? Same thing that we had a few years ago with Dale. That's right. Actually broke my ankle, and I sent Tyler out there. You're young, you do it.
You gotta get back on that horse.
I know. Well, I do. I walk like this now, and I don't know if it's icy or not. Any questions about those accidents, or what to do in those situations? No? All right. Important dates for March and April went out. If you guys need a copy, let us know. You have copies in the office. Any questions on those dates? Anything you don't understand on there? No? As of right now, Geneva's last day is June 4th. I know, it's been a long year, hasn't it? Which will lead me into, vaccinations. So we're going, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week, these second vaccinations for a lot of us. And getting a lot of questions like, what are we gonna do? Too many people are calling in, you know, if it has an adverse effect on a lot of us. And we pretty much are just gonna have to wait and see what happens. If we have to close, we have to close. But I think the thought process right now is it's 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Some people don't even react to it. Some react very little to it. And those that do have a reaction, it's usually gone within 24 hours. So we're just gonna play it by ear right now. And you guys all saw the email from Adam, correct? Of what's a normal reaction and what isn't? Is there any questions on any of that? If you don't have it, if you need it forwarded, let me know. Because he does kind of spell it out in here, what's a normal reaction and what is not. Because we still have to be careful, you know, that it's not COVID. And then I had a question about taking ibuprofen or Tylenol afterwards if you do develop symptoms, which we did look up on the CDC website. It says it's perfectly fine to take either one of those. What they do not recommend is taking it prior. So if you want to get a jump on symptoms, it's not recommended that you take it before the shot. Any questions whatsoever on any of that? Tentatively, so first of all, we are still trying to get summer calendars. You know, it's kind of a bummer. You guys probably want to make plans and figure out what route you want to do. But we are working on it. Everything's just a little behind right now, but hopefully we will get those this week. And then the route viewing and the bidding are in service is tentatively scheduled for, the viewing would be August 8th and 9th. It's a Monday and Tuesday. And then the 2-hour or the in-service would be, did I say the 9th and the 10th? Okay. That's what I thought I said. It's not the 8th and 9th, it's the 9th and 10th.
Oh.
Sorry, it's that Monday and Tuesday. The 11th is Wednesday, the 11th will be our in-service. And then the bidding will be August 12th and 13th, that Thursday and Friday. And then our first day of school is the 18th, August 18th. Questions? Yes.
For Christmas, did they decide which week we're gonna be off?
I know the new calendar is out. Have it in here somewhere.
The 23rd to the 10th.
All right, so I show we're off the 23rd and 24th, and then the following 2 weeks.
Oh, good.
I bet the teachers don't like that. Cause all these kids are gonna skip the whole week of school and have to make homework.
That's right, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, then that would put our last day next year, May 27th. We'll get out a little earlier. A couple reminders, if you park here at the bus garage, if you're still in the bay, if you haven't backed out even a little bit, when you call in, you're not gonna hear us respond most likely. There's just too much cement going on here. So, it seems to help even if you just back out a little bit and then pull in. It's 5 miles an hour in the parking lot. And the bus that's backing out has the right of way. You know, that's not typical of a parking lot, but that's the way it is here. Anybody know why? You're blind when you're backing out, right? You can't see what's coming. So if someone says they're backing, wait for them. And then, just one quick thing with payroll, just to make life a little easier for everyone. Just to make sure that you guys understand, these are two separate things. So when you fill this request for time off out and you turn it in and we approve it, you still have to do this. Okay, this is just saying, yes, you can have the time. This is actually putting in your time for payroll. Any questions on that?
The clock out sheet.
The clock in, clock out sheet, yeah. All right, any questions for me over any of this? Or anything at all?
I have one question,
Mary?
to help avoid an accident. There's a, over on the east side, by Dairy Queen, when they had the water main break over there and they repaired, they tore up the road.
Uh-huh.
That pothole is big enough to swallow a bus in it.
Do you know
And
what?
you've gotta slow down to like 5 miles an hour to get over that thing, and it's just, you know, you got cars coming at you at 35, 40. Could you ask the city if they can level that out, cause you can't, I mean,
You don't
kids
see
will
it.
hit the ceiling.
That's by the Dairy Queen.
Yeah, I
You
picked
don't
up
see
that.
it until you're like
It's,
this.
it's really
I
bad.
had a field trip the other night and I got kids out skating.
I know, yeah, it's really bad.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely send something over.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Dave?
With all these signs that say 5 days a week, what's the rumors, or have you heard anything at all about going back 5 days?
Sure, so we do have, I don't know how many of you are on, social media, but we do have some parents that formed a group and they want the kids back 5 days a week. What we're doing though is following the guidelines and we're looking at the numbers. You know, whether it's district-wide, for Geneva, King County, you know, we have, to look at all the numbers. And then we have guidelines to follow, whether it's CDC, IDPH, ISBE, you know, everybody wants their input on what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. So, as of right now, I know there are other districts that have gone back 5 days a week. Some of those districts, so they're on a AM, PM. So, their children may be going 5 days a week, but they're half days. You know, so there's no point in changing what we're doing to do half days. And then some districts have, more buildings than we do, right? So, they have more space, they may be a smaller, district, so that having an extra building or two allows them to spread the kids out more. And then, there's something else I was gonna bring up and I just lost it from that meeting. Oh, it was suggested that we, look at other buildings, like the Sam's Club over there, right? Sitting there empty, why can't we use that? There are so many restrictions on a building that, have to be up to code for school. You can't just take any building and put kids in it, so the cost to do that would just be absolutely ridiculous, and that's why we're not doing that. So as of right now, it's status quo. What we're doing,
It worked.
it's working. So far it's working. Even the numbers, I don't know how many of you check the dashboard, but our numbers are good. And believe me, like I know, everyone would like it to go back to normal. And that's what we're all shooting for, and hopefully, you know, by next fall, we can do that. Maybe even, you know, before the end of the year. The problem is, we have more than, you know, just that. If the numbers all of a sudden are good, and they say you can go back, well, now we're adjusting, schedules for students, so those students could have different teachers because of the way it is set up right now for the AV schedule. And then just imagine, you know, an elementary student that, you know, has had this interaction with a teacher up until March, and then you want to switch them to a whole new teacher. Now you're losing ground there as well when it comes to retaining what they're teaching. So, as of right now, we're just staying the way it is. Unless there's some huge change that happens. Mhm. Any other questions? About anything? No? Oh, you guys are quiet.
We're not used to this yet.
I told Matt, I said, you know, just go over something that's not gonna take too awfully long, because they're probably gonna have a lot of questions we haven't been able to meet in how long? All right, well, if not, then I'm gonna turn it over to Tyler, because he has a couple of things to go over, in the shop.
Hello, everyone. So, I made a couple of videos to go over a few things, going over how to change your clocks, so that time change is coming up, so at least everyone should have a good idea of how to do it. And then I'm going over how to warm up the big 72 passenger buses properly in the wintertime. There's actually a method to do it, so that we're not getting chilly cold buses going down the road. Wasn't able to make a video for these short buses, but I'll go over a couple things with those as well. I think that's... Is that just a picture of the video?
That was a video.
No.
Just whenever you're ready to hit the lights.
And I apologize for the video editing. My phone doesn't have video editing software, so there's a few of them that have really awkward long pauses in the middle of them. But yeah, go ahead. In order to change the time on a short bus, first make sure the radio is on. Then press and hold the menu button. Now press the down arrow to scroll to set clock. Press enter. Change the hours with the up and down arrows to get the correct time. Press enter to go to minutes, and press enter when you're done. Press menu to exit the menu, and then if you want the large clock face, press and hold the volume button, turn it off, and get back to the clock. Yeah, the big ones are a little,
They're hard to see on that
yeah,
low back.
they're kind of a pain in the butt. But yeah, so any questions on the short buses? Is everyone able to see and hear okay? Yeah? Cool. Alright, so these are the big buses. The video is hard to see because that bright blue, slightly annoying screen. But yeah, similar process. In order to change the clock on the big bus, first make sure the power is on. Then, press the display button to switch to the time. Press and hold the display button until the hour starts flashing. Once the hour is flashing, you can use the right and left arrows to change the hour. Press the display button to switch to minutes. Press the right and left arrows to change the minutes. Press the display button again to exit. If you wish to go back to the main clock, Press and hold the power button to turn off the radio. And then it gets you back to the main clock display.
Any questions on the big bus?
Does that have a bigger display for the clock or no?
That's as big as it gets, unfortunately. Right, and then this is the poorly edited heat up procedures for the big 72 passenger bus.
It's cold outside, and some of you are concerned with your big bus's ability to heat up. The 6.7 liter, 6-cylinder Cummins turbo diesel that's in all of our big buses is a very thermal efficient engine. This means that it doesn't produce very much heat during normal operation. So these are things you can do to heat up your bus in the most efficient way possible. When starting your pre-trip, turning on your bus, don't immediately turn on all of your heaters. If you do this, you will cause your engine to take a much longer time to heat up. You can, however, turn on your boost pump to help cycle coolant through the system. You want to wait until your thermostat is well above 170 degrees. It should stop just before 200. This will allow your engine to reach operating temperature before you start taking heat out of it to heat up the bus. Once you reach this temperature, go ahead and turn on your stepwell and driver heater defrost buttons. These two heaters don't take a whole lot of heat out of the system, and it'll allow your bus to maintain its operating temperature while starting to warm the bus. Also, ensure that all of your windows and hatches are closed so that you don't let any cold air back in. Also, make sure your front door is closed as well. Once you are ready to get on the road, go ahead and turn on your midship and rear heaters. When you are on the road and driving and have the throttle pressed down, the engine creates additional heat. This additional heat will allow you to have all 4 heaters on at the same time. This should start warming up your bus by the time you get to the first stop. And don't forget, on especially cold days, this whole process will take a lot longer. But don't worry, I'll be there early in the morning to start all of the buses on those especially cold days.
And you get pump function on or off?
The boost pump?
Yeah.
Yeah, you leave that on. It's just
You
on
leave
and
it
off.
what?
You would leave that on for the entire duration.
You do.
And then just at the end of your route, when you park your bus and you turn off your bus and everything, just turn off all of your switches. If you remember the battery presentation I put out before, you always want to turn off everything when you're shutting off your bus. Obviously, except your master flashers. Saves battery, prevents the bus from killing itself. But yeah, so the big thing with the boost pump, you can have the boost pump on as long as the engine is running. It helps just cycle the coolant around and it doesn't actually cause any cooling down. But those heaters, they suck any heat out of the coolant. And if the engine is getting up to temperature, you're not getting any heat to those heaters until that thermostat opens. And once that thermostat opens, all the cold coolant in the entire bus just flows right into the engine. So you'll see the temperature go up, your thermostat will open, and it'll immediately go right back down because that freezing coolant just goes right into the engine. So it's best to let your coolant get all the way up and then it'll kind of fluctuate a little bit. And then once it's stably up there, then turn on your heaters, like I showed in the video. And then the engines don't really produce enough heat to run all 4 heaters at idle. So that's why you would only keep the 2 on until you're ready to go on the road, because pressing down on the throttle and actually accelerating makes enough heat to run all 4 of them. Yeah, that's pretty much it for temperature and stuff. Any questions on the big bus?
Are you still allowed to bump up the idle like we used to as South have done?
No, we're not supposed to be doing that.
Okay.
Technically, all of the, what's it called? Brain fart.
Cruise control.
Yeah, the cruise control. All of those are supposed to be disabled. somehow they're not.
Well, it doesn't work for cruise control, but you're able to bump up the idle on it. I mean,
It bumps up the idle,
back
it
when
doesn't
we were told to
work
do
down
that,
the
we
road.
heat it up, you know?
Yeah, it's, we're not supposed to do that at idle when the bus is just like parked and sitting,
Okay,
because there's other systems that it,
well, that's the only time you do it.
yeah, it just
You go
burns
to
up a
the
lot
system,
more.
go, obviously.
Yeah, I think they can drive in fourth, right? Reach higher RPMs while on the road.
They could, yeah.
Yeah, so that's, one thing you can do, is if your bus is taking a particularly long time to heat up, shift from drive into fourth. What this will do is, you'll drive pretty much normally, but you'll be at higher RPMs. It's kinda like making the engine work a little harder to achieve the same speeds. It's not really gonna affect your acceleration much at all, but the engine running at higher RPMs while under load is a safe way to generate more heat that'll spread throughout your coolant in your system.
Well, hopefully we won't have any more freezing cold weather right now.
Yeah.
I know we have to do that.
Yeah.
Is there any way for you to adjust the windows that won't go up all the way? You know, that sit cockeyed? The kids sit there sometimes and they try to shut them, and they won't, I can't shut them.
Yeah,
Can you adjust those at all to make them stay up?
for those, no, they're just kind of stuck the way they are. However, one trick that I use is a wooden broom handle. You can kind of pop it up from the outside, and then they'll close all the way. It's just,
Yeah.
sometimes the latches get a little worn, and it takes a little extra effort to get them in and all the way out. But yeah, as far as those latches, it's just a spring
It's not an
inside of there.
adjustment. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Any other questions for the big bus? No? Okay. So now for the short bus, I didn't get a chance to get any pictures or videos, but there are a couple of unique features, we'll call them, on the short bus. So the way that they are assembled, there are two manufacturers. Chevy, who makes the whole front end of the bus, everything on the dash, steering wheel, the frame, the lower frame, the wheels, the engine, that's all made by Chevy. Now, the rest of the big boxy part of the bus, all of the lights and all of the additional accessories, such as your heater that's in the back, is made by Collins, I believe. Yeah, except we have obviously one Starcraft bus. So, they don't like to talk when they're designing things, and it leads to wonderful, very puzzling conundrums for me, mechanic. So, on your HVAC panel, you have three knobs. You have speed, fan speed, you have temperature, and then you have direction. The direction one is like head, feet, head and feet. Well, in Chevy's infinite wisdom, they decided that on the direction knob, in order to control the AC of the bus, you either have to be in the snowflake or any of the highlighted markers as well. So if you are on snowflake, or I think it's just face or feet and face, it turns the AC compressor on and starts pumping cold air into your system. So even if you have the dial turned all the way to heat, if you're in one of those settings, it'll also turn the AC on to heat and cool the bus simultaneously. I don't know why. So that means if you're in a short bus and you want to heat up the short bus, only turn it to, I believe it's just feet, or what's the one after that again?
Probably defrosting.
Yeah, I think it's like just feet or defrosting feet. Or no, I think it's just feet, or just face.
It's actually feet and face. It's either feet and face.
Yeah, so just feet or just face. Those are the only two where only the heat comes on. So also, when you turn on defrost, it's a defrost defog mode. So what that does is it runs both the heater and the AC in order to pull moisture out of the air to prevent your windshield from fogging up. So if you turn it to defrost, it also turns on the AC compressor and cools your bus down. So you're basically not going to be getting very warm air if you're on any of those settings. So Collins, in their infinite wisdom, decided to wire the rear heater AC mechanism into the exact same HVAC panel. So the rear one, if you turn on the heat knob, but you have the Chevy AC going, will also turn on the AC in the back, therefore not producing warm air. So if you're in a short bus and you want hot air, turn it to just face or just feet, and then you can turn on your rear heater and both of them will start blowing warm. During the summertime, it's also another thing to remember, since they're wired together like that, you need the Chevy AC turned on before you can turn on the Collins AC in the back. And this is just because the Freon lines that go back there, they're not very well put together. So if you turn on the rear AC without turning on the front AC, there's no Freon going back there. The compressor doesn't kick on. So that's why I think we have a sticker on most of the dashes that say make sure you turn on both of them at the same time. Although conveniently you can just turn the Chevy fan speed to like 1, so it's not blasting out of there, and then just turn on the rear one. So if you're too hot or too cold, you can do that to just run the back one so that the kids get whatever temperature they want, and then you're not getting heated or chilled. I know it's a whole lot of complicated mess, but I don't know why they built it that way. So, any questions on the short bus stuff? No? Nobody?
I have a question about windows, or something maybe you could clear up.
Uh-huh.
I know in the past, like, with the rooms, it was recommended that we not do that. But I don't know that I was ever given a reason why that shouldn't be done. And if that's just something we do when it gets stuck.
Yeah.
Or is that something drivers can do consistently?
So the main thing is, if it is made out of wood, you're okay. If it's made out of plastic or metal, you can scratch the windows. So that's probably why. But as long as it is a wooden broom handle, it's not gonna scratch the windows, so you can use it to shove those stuck ones back
I think
up.
most of us just use a towel over it and do it anyway. And
Yeah,
just
or you can wrap a towel over the end, just something that's not gonna scratch the windows.
Or a hot glove.
But yeah, that's the big key thing, because a lot of those metal and plastic broom handles, they'll scratch the windows right up, just trying to do that. So yeah, just make sure it's wood, wrap it in a cloth, something just to not scratch the windows. But yeah, those latches, they really just get worn out, and they get harder to move. I can try and, like the extremely stuck ones, I can maybe try and like lubricate or something to see if they'll go out better, but they'll best be tested in the summertime when we really start using them a whole lot more.
Yeah. Duct tape. Yeah. Put
Yeah.
tape over it.
Yeah, go ahead, Leslie.
Is it all right in the wintertime to use the manual shifting in a little bus? Because I use it all the time. Is there anything I need to know, when not to use it, say?
The manual shifting?
Yeah, in the gear shifter. You got-
Oh, the little plus and minus that's
Right,
on there?
You can go from first gear to second gear, then you can download it. You can
Yeah,
download it. Is that all right to use it without anything else that we have to put on or do?
Yeah, no, there are no additional procedures for that. If you know how to shift the bus and then use that, go ahead. There's safety features in there so that even if you miss a shift or you don't shift or anything like that, the bus will still shift automatically. And there's, other than temperature, but the short buses, they heat up pretty well. Mostly because they're gassers instead of diesel. But yeah, there's you can use that, whatever's more comfortable. Anything else?
You guys think we're gonna keep these buses?
We're keeping them for another year.
And then this summer, are we recycling a couple of short buses? Maybe?
I think there's 5 buses, small buses we're cycling out this year, isn't there, Mary? Yeah. So we're keeping all the big buses another year, and there's 5 small buses that are gonna get cycled out.
Yeah. We'll most likely do the short buses in batches, just because it's easier that way. And then the big buses, we'll do like we did before. This whole cycle just got messed up with COVID and everything else going on, so that's why we've kept these buses for so long. But, yeah, like Matt said, one more year for the big buses, and then,
All the bugs will be out of them.
yeah.
They'll be fixed and ready to go for the next.
That's how it always
year.
works.
Yeah. Alright, well, I believe that is all I got.
Susie?
With the gallon stand in the back,
Mm-hmm.
you do have to turn that fan on in front of it, right?
Yeah, so if you want heat in the back, make sure that your Chevy dial is set to just face or just feet. And then it will send heat to the back as well. And then you can turn on that fan back there. So your AC is the knob that you turn, and your heat for the back is the switch that just has a high and low.
Yeah.
So don't turn the AC knob and the heat switch, it's just the heat switch. And then for AC, yeah, you have to have it in one of the AC settings, and then you can turn the knob to set off the AC in the back.
Okay.
And I don't believe there is any way to just have that rear Collins unit as a fan. It either has to be heat or has to be AC, unfortunately. Yeah. Any other questions? Going once? Going twice?
I was just gonna say, there's a couple that asked, Jackie came out and took attendance, that's why there's not a sign that she's going around.
Alright, that's all I got.
Alright, and we got a video on turns and tail swings.
Yay!
Have you ever come close to making contact with an object or vehicle while turning? Are you aware of how far out the rear of the bus will go as you make the turn? Turns can be dangerous and costly if you do not take the necessary precautions before and during these maneuvers. They are among the most common type of accident in the school bus and motor coach industry. Hi, I'm Todd Carrier with Protective Insurance Company. In this edition of Safety Solutions, we'll review turning techniques and point out things to help you avoid these accidents. Before we begin, it's important to understand how turning accidents occur. Most of these accidents are minor and only involve something such as a mailbox, a mirror, or a stop sign. However, these accidents can also involve pedestrians, resulting in extensive bodily harm. For example, a right turn in a school bus on a tight residential street may only result in the rear tire going over someone's lawn or sidewalk, but a left turn in a motor coach in a parking lot drop-off situation could knock a pedestrian into a parked car, causing severe bodily injury. Poorly adjusted mirrors, not knowing the dimensions of the bus, speed, and proximity of moving objects can all contribute to this type of accident. Let's take some time to concentrate on proper turning techniques to minimize these exposures. First, you should always know the approximate length and width of the vehicle. Many school buses have a standard width of 8.5 feet and length of 40 to 45 feet. The rear axle of a bus, as in a passenger vehicle, acts as a pivot point for the rear of the vehicle. However, the distance between the rear axle and the rear of the bus is much greater than the distance between the rear axle and the rear of a passenger car. This part of the bus between the rear axle and the rear of the bus is commonly referred to as the tail swing because it appears to swing around during a turn maneuver. This tail swing can be up to 10 feet or more on a standard school bus. If you are assigned to a different vehicle, it is important to be aware of this before pulling out of your space. Not knowing how long or wide your bus is will make it very difficult to determine where your vehicle will be throughout a turn. Follow your company's policy on pre-trip inspections. and be sure to take note of your vehicle dimensions. Next, ensure the mirrors are adjusted properly. Begin with the driver's side mirror. If you can see the windows on the side of the bus, the mirrors need to be pushed out. You can see how the cone comes in and out of view. When making a left turn, remember to ensure that the right rear of your bus will adequately clear vehicles, pedestrians, and objects which are on your right side as you begin the turn. Look left and ahead to ensure that you have the right of way to make the left turn. And last, but certainly not least, briefly glance at your left and right mirrors to ensure that your vehicle will clear all potential objects or hazards during the turn. Typically, when you make a right turn, it's at an intersection or in a parking lot. Since there are a significant number of accidents which happen while a driver is making a right turn, it is important once again to ensure your mirrors are properly adjusted to see any objects, people, or vehicles on the right side of the bus. Check to the right side of the school bus for any obstacles, vehicles, or pedestrians. This will help you in clearing the turn during the maneuver. Set up your turn no more than 4 feet from the curb. Look at your left mirrors briefly to ensure that your left tail swing has adequate clearance from vehicles, objects, and pedestrians. During the turn, it is necessary to ensure your rear axle has enough clearance to keep your bus from pinching objects on your right once the bus begins the pivot. Check your right flat and convex mirrors for space as your bus continues through the turn. Recheck your left mirrors for clearance in the event a vehicle or person has entered the area where your tail swing will occur. Once you have completed the right turn, check your mirrors once again and straighten out your front wheels before accelerating ahead. If you are driving a motor coach, you should also know the approximate length and width of the vehicle. Many motor coaches have a standard width of 9 feet and length of 45 feet. In most cases, the front axle is behind the driver, which makes turning somewhat of a challenge as you begin the actual turn later in the process compared to a passenger vehicle. The rear axle of a coach, as in a passenger vehicle, also acts as a pivot point for the rear of the vehicle. However, the distance between the rear axle and the rear of the motor coach is also much greater than the distance between the rear axle and the rear of a passenger car. Although the tail swing on a motor coach is not as drastic as that of a school bus, the tail swing on a motor coach can still be several feet. Just like with a school bus, not knowing how long or wide your bus is will make it less likely to know where your vehicle will be throughout a turn. Follow your company policy on pre-trip inspections and be sure to make a mental note of your vehicle dimensions. When turning left in a motor coach, remember to ensure that the right rear of your vehicle will adequately clear vehicles, pedestrians, and objects which are on your right side as you begin the turn. Second, look left and ahead to ensure that you have the right of way and to make the left turn. And last, but certainly not least, briefly glance at your left and right mirrors to ensure that your vehicle will clear all potential objects or hazards during the turn. Typically, when you make a right turn, it's at an intersection or in a parking lot. Since there are a significant number of accidents which happen while a driver is making a right turn, it's important once again to ensure your mirrors are properly adjusted to be able to see objects, people, or vehicles on the right side of the motor coach. Check to the right side of the motor coach, if possible, for any obstacles, vehicles, or pedestrians. This will help you in clearing the turn during the maneuver. Set up your turn no more than 4 feet from the curb. Look at your left mirrors briefly to ensure that your left tail swing has adequate clearance from vehicles, objects, and pedestrians. During the turn, it is necessary to ensure your rear axle has enough clearance to keep your bus from pinching objects on your right once the bus begins the pivot. Check your right flat and convex mirrors for space as your bus continues through the turn. Recheck your left mirrors for clearance in the event a vehicle or person has entered the area where your tail swing will occur. Once you have completed the right turn, check your mirrors once again and straighten out your front wheels before accelerating ahead. When turning from a single lane into a double lane, always turn into the far lane and make the transition to the desired lane well after your turn. When entering a double turn, always stay in the outside lane to avoid a pinch by the outside vehicle. So let's recap. Conduct a thorough pre-trip inspection. Ensure your mirrors are clean and properly adjusted. Know your vehicle, including the amount of tail swing you will have. Check your mirrors during the turn to ensure you have clearance on both sides, especially the tail swing. If there's any doubt about your clearances, perhaps you shouldn't try, and never assume it's okay, because that's how it's always been done. And finally, always use the outside lanes and be aware of your surroundings at all times when turning or maneuvering the bus or motor coach. For more safety solutions and risk management resources, visit our website at protectiveinsurance.com and click on loss prevention. And remember, there's always time for safety.
Alright, like they said in the video, your tail swing is much greater on a school bus. Does anybody know how much potential tail swing you have on a school bus? It's actually 13 feet. You have 13 feet from that rear dual to the back of your bus, because that rear dual is your pivot point. It all just depends on how fast you're going and how tight of a turn you're trying to make as to how much tail swing you have. So just be aware of that. What's up, Randy?
Well, they just said 10 feet, I don't know where you get the extra 3.
They said 10 feet for a school bus. I can tell you it's actually 13 feet.
Okay.
Was that maybe the motor coach?
No, the motor coach is short.
It could also be because, some big buses, it's all dependent on school district and manufacturer is, so ours are 40-foot long.
39.
Or 39 feet long, and there are some manufacturers that technically make shorter big buses, so they probably just took like an average, is what I would guess for this video. But ours in particular are 13-foot tail swing.
Great question, Alan, thank you.
Any questions on turns and tail swings? Alright, then I'm gonna turn it back over to Mary.
Now you guys are like, no, let us leave. I just wanted to come up one more time. Any questions about anything that we went over today? Oh, you were raising your hand.
I have questions.
You're like, I'm not later. Come on.
Is there an attendance sheet or?
No, but,
Jeremy has
good
it.
attendance.
I can't hear.
Yeah, I'm doing this real.
So I sit up here.
All right, if you guys don't have any other questions, I just want to say thank you. I know this year has been a tough year. All these schedule changes and all these A and Bs and Fridays changing up, so thank you very much. It is appreciate what you guys are doing. It's not going unnoticed, all right? And hopefully spring is here, Miss South Fall Spring.